Chief Petty Officer Webber, Master of Cheeses on board RMS Titanic, reporting for duty, sir. Today is the 14th of April 1912, and I will be serving many exotic cheeses aboard our grand ocean liner, including a delicious lactic cheese called St Ivel. You've never heard of St Ivel? It sounds exotic, doesn't it? Well, g'day curd nerds, it's me, Gav. On the 113th anniversary of the sinking of the RMS Titanic, I've uncovered a unique cheese that has been lost to time. We also have an interesting family connection to the Titanic that I'll discuss during the video. Now, St Ivel cheese was served on board Royal Mail ship Titanic to the first class passengers as the final course of luncheon on April the 14th, 1912, the fateful day that the ocean liner struck an iceberg. You may see from the menu on the screen that many other popular cheeses were also available, such as Cheshire, Stilton, Gorgonzola, Edam, Camembert, Roquefort and Cheddar. Now, before I show you how to make St Ivel, let's talk about the history of this interesting cheese. St Ivel Lactic Cheese was first produced in 1901 by Aplin Barrett Ltd, a Yeovil-based dairy company from the southwest of England. It was presented to the public at the London Dairy Show in 1901, where thousands tasted it, and apparently one and all produced them perfect. Orders for over 6,000 units were booked, and the price for each cheese was 6 pence. It was a fresh lactic set cheese, soft and rich like cream cheese, but instead of tasteless and curdy, it had the flavour of old fine cheddar. It was said to have spread as easily as butter and was delightful on sandwiches. It was heavily promoted to have health-giving lactic cultures that allegedly toned up the system and aided in the digestion of other foods. The advertised principal culture was BACILLUS Bulgaricus of MASSOL. I think that might be Lactobacillus bulgaricus, not too sure. The cheese was sold in a box containing St Ivel Lactic Cheese. The box, when assembled, measured 4 inches by 2 3/4 inches by 1 1/4 inches, which is 100 millimetres by 70 millimetres by 32 millimetres. Now, fun fact, there is no saint by the name St Ivel. It was simply a marketing ploy to sell more cheese. Now, the Aplin Barrett Ltd cheese factory in Yeovil closed in 1976, and the factory was demolished on the 21st of January 1983. And the cheese was never made again. Until... Now, you know that time when you found an extinct cheese and you can't find anybody alive who made it? Well, I've attempted to make this lactic set cheese for you based on descriptions of the cheese. The recipe has been lost to time, but I believe that I've cracked the code. Now, let me show you how I made a good facsimile of St Ivel cheese. So the ingredients for St Ivel cheese is 4 litres or 1 gallon of whole cow's milk, pasteurised, unhomogenised, 1/8 of a teaspoon of MA 4000 series mesophilic starter culture, 1/4 of a teaspoon or 1.25 millilitres of calcium chloride diluted in 1/4 cup of non-chlorinated water, 4 to 6 drops of single strength liquid rennet in 1/4 cup or 30 millilitres of non-chlorinated water, and cheese salt 1.5% per weight of drained curd. So sanitise your metal equipment by boiling them in 2 litres or 2 quarts of water in your stock pot, and then lay them out on a clean tea towel. Now, for the plastic equipment, just sanitise that with a no rinse sanitizer. I use Darsan, or you can use Idafor. So pour your milk into your stock pot and begin heating it to 30 degrees Celsius or 86 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, as it's heating, add in your calcium chloride solution and stir that whilst you're pouring it. So pop the lid back on, and then in about 30 minutes just check the temperature and it should be about right. There we go, spot on, 30 degrees. So now we're going to add the mesophilic starter culture. Just sprinkle that over the surface of the milk. And then cover it up and allow it to rehydrate for 5 minutes. So after 5 minutes, take the lid off and stir the milk for 30 seconds, just incorporating the starter culture back into it. Now we can add the liquid rennet and stir that in for no more than 1 minute. So put the lid back on. Now we're going to allow that to set initially for 12 hours or until it reaches a pH of less than 4.6. This is known as the isoelectric point of milk. So you can test manually by looking at the curds. Mine was a pH of 4.3, but there's clear whey on top. The curds have pulled away from the sides of the pot, as you can see there. So I'm just taking all of my plastic equipment out of the sanitizer and placing it on the side there. And I'm just spraying the board that I'm using there with Star San as well and placing it all on there. Now, to give the baskets a quick rinse under the tap under hot water, just to get rid of any sanitizer. And now we're just draining off the excess whey. And yep, pull the plug out, Gav. There we go. That's better. Right, now we can drain off some of the excess whey. It just makes it a little bit easier to scoop it out with a skimmer in a minute. Now we got mostly curds, which is good. So start transferring the curds into the moulds. So 1 scoop for each basket as you go along. Now this will take some time. It took about 15 minutes for me to get all the curds out of the pot. But I did them 1 scoop per basket each time I filled that up. Now you'll find that you use most of the curds straight away in the first scooping to fill the baskets, but there is some left, but you want to get all that. Don't add any more baskets. The 4 are sufficient. So just let them drain a bit and then top them up. And keep doing that until you've used all of the curds. So let the curds drain for 24 hours. Now during that 24 hours you'll have to turn them a few times. So the initial turn for me was at 6 hours, where I thought they were solid enough that I could actually flip them out of their baskets and give them a bit of a bang so they sit evenly on the bottom. Now just remember, when you handle the cheese, always make sure you've washed them with hot soapy water before touching the cheese. So that's the first turn. I'm going to pop the umbrella on, or maybe I didn't. The next turn is at 12 hours. Do the same thing, wash your hands, then flip them over in their baskets. There we go. Now you see they're draining quite well and shrinking as they drain. There we go. Once they're drained, weigh each cheese and calculate 1.5% of its weight. So 1.5% of 235.5 grams equals 3.5 grams. So halve the total salt and sprinkle that amount on the top. Wait for 3 hours for the salt to dissolve. So it's about 1.75 grams in my instance when I weighed mine. There's 3 hours on the timer. So after the 3 hours, turn them over and add the remaining salt to the other side, which is the damp side. It worked out to be about a heaped quarter teaspoon, which is another 1.75 grams of salt on top. So that gives us our 1.5%. There we go, all done. Another 3 hours on the clock so it dissolves, and put that thing over the top. And you can see there's a close-up of the salt as it's dissolving. Very nice. So after the 3 hours, remove from the baskets and place them on a mat in a ripening box. Now the ripening box has been sanitized with the Star San as well. And air dry at 21 degrees Celsius for 2 days, turning every 12 hours for even drying. After the 2 days, we're going to wrap each cheese in micro-perforated cheese wrap. Now I'm using silver here, you can use white without any issues at all. So use sticky tape to seal them. I'm just using mine in a roll and then pressing down the ends and then sealing that with sticky tape as well. There we go, there's one down. Once I figured it out, it was a lot easier. There's two. So the size of the sheets I'm using are 420 millimeters square, and I've cut those down the middle. There we go. So mature in the ripening box at 13 degrees Celsius or 55.4 Fahrenheit at 80% relative humidity for 1 week only. Back to Gav. Now I mentioned a family connection to the Titanic. Well, my lovely wife Kim Webber, whose maiden name was Dawson, has a deep, dark secret. Her great-grandfather, William James Major, served on board the Titanic and survived the disaster. He was 32 years old at the time. He was a fireman, one of over 150 crewmen who shovelled coal into the massive furnaces that boiled the water to create the steam that ran the engines. When the call to abandon ship occurred, he was off watch, which means he wasn't at his post, and made his way to lifeboat 13 on the starboard side. Whilst the lifeboat was descending, discharging water from the ship's pumps pushed it beneath lifeboat 15, which was being lowered above them, and their boat was under threat of capsizing. Leading fireman Frederick Barrett cut the ropes, and the rest of the crew and the passengers managed to push lifeboat 13 free from the ship. It is estimated that number 13 held perhaps 25 women and children, 15 or so male passengers, and some 25 male crew members, 60 or perhaps a few more in total. The Titanic was travelling from Southampton in the United Kingdom to New York City in the United States, and it struck an iceberg at 11:40 p.m. on April the 14th. It sank 2 hours and 40 minutes later at 2:20 a.m. on April the 15th, with approximately 1,500 passengers and crew dying during the disaster. The members of Lifeboat 13 were rescued by the crew of the SS Carpathia. Now, William Major made it to New York aboard the SS Carpathia on April 18th and sent a telegram to his wife Rose, writing that he had survived and was returning to Southampton on board the SS Lapland. He returned to sea after the disaster, and the last ship he served on was the RMS Olympic. William died in September 1960, aged 80, and is buried in the Old Cemetery in Southampton Common. William and Rose had a daughter named Rose Annie, born in 1907, who was Kim's grandmother. Later in life, she married Albert Dawson, becoming Rose Dawson. This is quite uncanny because in the James Cameron Titanic movie of 1997, the fictional character Rose DeWitt Bucata, played by Kate Winslet, took on the name Rose Dawson upon arrival in New York. Now that sent shivers down our spines when we first saw the movie way back when it was first released. Quite a coincidence, don't you think? So curd nerds, let's taste the cheese. Was it worthy of the grand RMS Titanic? So here we are at the taste test. Now the St Ivel, I wrapped it in micro perforated wrap. It's a silver one I had just lying around, but if you've got the white kind, that's absolutely perfect. No problems with using that. All it does is protect the rind from moulds and helps dry the cheese out a little bit as well. So that's all it does. Now I had this stored in the cheese cave at 13 degrees Celsius for a week after I wrapped them, and then I thought, well, I'll try one, which I have off camera, and it was ready to go. So with my captain's table crackers, get it? All right, we're going to try the St Ivel Lactic set cheese that was served on board the RMS Titanic. So let's unwrap this bad boy. I just used sticky tape, as you saw in the video, just to keep it from coming apart. There's certainly no issues on doing that. Normally they use a sticker when they make these sorts of cheeses, but rarely do they wrap lactic set cheeses, so this is quite unique. So what does it smell like? Smells like a freshish sort of cheese, but yeah. Anyway, let's cut a piece off. It's quite firm, which is good. It's not gooey on the inside, and I never intended it to be. And there we go. We have a piece. Very nice indeed. Picture perfect, I reckon. Anyway, so what's she taste like? For an extinct cheese, I hope it doesn't taste horrible. Anyway, we'll get into it. First, without the captain's table cracker. It's got a little bit of sharpness, a little bit of tastes a little bit like a cheddar. So I think the marketing might have been okay there. But it's definitely got flavour. It doesn't taste like cream cheese. It's a little bit more acidic than that. That's really nice. It's salted to perfection. Can it spread like butter? Well, close, a little bit gritty. But we'll see. There we go. Oops. That's a really nice little cheese. Why would it go extinct? Goodness me. Well, possibly because the factory got knocked down, but it's a lovely cheese. So St Ivel Lactic set cheese, as you can see, perfectly good cheese. I would have served that on the Titanic for sure, especially being the master of cheeses. So there you have it, curd nerds. And let's have some final words from Gav. So there you have it, curd nerds. I've resurrected an extinct cheese that was served on board the Titanic and explained our family connection. Let's take a moment to remember the 1,500 souls that perished during the disaster. May they rest in peace. If you've enjoyed this video and the cheese tutorial, let me know what your favourite part was in the comments. Thanks for watching, curd nerds, and I'll see you next time. Bon voyage.